Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshmalatam Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Swayam Vipadamayan Vedanti Swami Vedantikam Andeham Shri Guru Shri Tathakamo Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakanavatam Jamsam Sadvaitam Sadvutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Veram Sakana Lalita Shri Vishavitam Shri Join in.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hey Krishna Karanas
Dinabandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namastute, Tapta Kanchana Gaurami, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sutayati, Pranamani Priya, Vanchakalpatarubhasya, Kripa Sindhu Devacha, Patikanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavani, Kasyatyanestarine, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So I'm going to read from Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number 10. And I will be asking questions. And I will be directing my questions towards the audience. And you will have to answer. Otherwise, you have to stand in the corner. So I'll just do the Sanskrit. Prayana alpa ayusha sabya kalu asman yoga jana manda samanda mataya manya manda bhaga upadrita. Translation. O learned one, in this age of Kali, men have but short lives, are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Repeat, O learned one.
O learned one,
In this age of Kali, men have but short lives.
men have but short lives.
They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The devotees of the Lord are always anxious for the spiritual improvement of the general public. The people of this age are also very lazy, not only materially, but in the matter of self-realization. The human life is especially meant for self-realization. That is to say, man should come to know what he is what the world is and what the supreme truth is. In this age, men are victims not only of different political creeds and parties, but also of many different types of sense gratificatory divisions. So now you have to remember, this is the first canto. So Prabhupada wrote this before he came to America. So this would have been when? 1960. So now, if you listen to what Prabhupada has to say about self-gratificatory divisions, it's quite frightening. So here's a list. No doubt you'll be ticking off the ones you don't do. So many different types of self-gratificatory divisions, such as cinemas, sports, gambling, clubs, mundane libraries, bad association, smoking, drinking, cheating, pilfering, hickering, and so on. Their minds are always disturbed and full of anxiety due to so many different engagements. So it's amazing how strict Prabhupada was. It was 1960. And then of course he came to the West, and his main clients, use that word clients, were the hippies. The hippies who did all of these things. So then Prabhupada had to adjust. So he adjusted. There's a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta where he says the Acharya is actually above Sastra. So usually we say Sastra, Guru, Vaishnavas. That's how you confirm something. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta actually said the Acharya is above Sastra. But that, of course, is the empowered Acharya. So Prabhupada actually did adjust things. For example, when he gave initiation, the day after Krishnaష్టami in 1966, Prabhupada initiated, I think it was 10 or 12 devotees. One lady and the rest were men. So when Prabhupada gave the initiation, this is described in Prabhupada Lilamrita, he didn't say anything about the 4 regulative principles. Can you imagine that? Nothing. So the next day, some of the disciples asked, are there various principles we should follow? And then Prabhupada said, I'm glad you asked me. And then he gave them the principles, which are no meat, no fish, no eggs, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. And so 2 of those disciples were Mukunda Maharaj, and his good wife, Janaki. And they were living together. So Prabhupada decided they had to get married. So then he did a marriage ceremony. And he married together. So So you can see how strict Prabhupada was and how he adjusted to time, place, and circumstance. So the Acharya can do this, but it's got to be clear that it's the real Acharya and not just anyone, as it were. So in this age of Kali, men and women are victims of different political creeds. So of course we're seeing this in South Africa. We're coming for election. And those who are particularly interested can just look at what's going on in America with our favorite Donald. And we can have a good laugh. So victims of political creeds and parties. My immediate thought would have been how Prabhupada reminisces. So when he came here to South Africa, he was going on morning walk, which was quite interesting because this was along Durban Beach. So for part of this year, I ended up in the hospital, as a few will verify. And they gave me the best room. Of course, I have my contacts. And also I was bribing. I gave all the nurses bars of chocolate. Not your Lind. Cadbury's, further down. Cadbury's fruit and nut. So I gave them all bars of chocolate. I got the best room. So at the end of the bed was this window. And there I could see Durban Embankment, the very place where Prabhupada walked. I think you know the Maharani Hotel. So I could see that. And in order to get a better view, I got binoculars. So I'm sitting on the bed, all these tubes, and looking through my binoculars where Prabhupada walked. So these recordings are available, and you can play them, and I suggest you do. There's not so many, maybe 20 recordings of Prabhupada. So on one early morning walk, Prabhupada was explaining how previously Hindus and Muslims were living together, and there wasn't really any problem. And even the Hindus would go to some of the celebrations the Muslims had, and vice versa. The Muslims would also go to sort of Hindu religious functions. But then due to politics, the Hindus and the Muslims became enemies. And this is in 1947, even started killing each other. So Prabhupada says this is simply politics. Actually what it was that the British controlled India. And India was the jewel of the empire, the British Empire. So the British Empire was the biggest empire so far in the Kali Yuga, and controlled 25% of the world's population and 25% of the landmass. It was much larger than the Persian or the Roman Empire, etc. So when finally the British had to leave India, they wanted to get back. So they created this division, and they sponsored various Muslim politicians, and there was this disharmony and violence that erupted. And then Pakistan came into existence. Previously Pakistan and Bangladesh were part of India. So simply with politics. So Prabhupada is saying here, different types of political creeds. And for the sake of politics, people are willing to die. They're willing to fight. Prabhupada said nationalism is demoniac. So nationalism means you'll die for your country. But many different types of sense gratificatory divisions, such as cinemas. I think the cinema thing has gone down a little. Am I correct?
Yes.
I don't know about America. Cinemas?
Yeah, they're pretty big.
Big. But in South Africa, it's gone down. Sports. So what can you say? Sports. We all know about the cricket, and now we have the ladies' cricket. So, in one sense, sports, as long as it doesn't incur sinful reaction, like riding on horses and chasing after foxes and things like this, it doesn't appear to be so bad. It's a release of energy, if you like, especially when you're younger. Sports. Prabhupada is saying it's a waste. Gambling. So what do our Hindu sisters and brothers play? What is it? Tummi? Huh? The famous card game the Hindus play.
Tani.
Bunny.
Tani.
I'm still waiting for someone to teach me. Tummy.
Tani.
Tani.
Yes.
Tani. Gambling. Clubs. So you have fishing clubs. You have stamp clubs. Surfing clubs. It doesn't fit into Rupa Goswami's definition of pure devotional service, but then we're quite a long way away from pure devotional service. So you've got to be practical. Which reminds me of a very interesting story. So there was this one town in Natal. I can't say too much because I don't want to embarrass anyone. But this man was initiated, but he was also a member of the fishing club. So they put a picture of the fishing club on the front page of the newspaper, the so-and-so Gazette. And there he was, smiling. He became exposed. So I asked him, why are you fishing? And he said, well, I feel relaxed. It relaxes me. So I told him the 4 regulative principles and also no fishing. Nice man. He and his wife initiated. Clubs, mundane libraries, bad associations, smoking, drinking. Prabhupada mentioned when he was walking in Durban that when he was young, no one drank tea. Now you can't go anywhere in India without the tea stall, isn't it? Even on the trains. What do they call out?
Chai.
Chai. Tea. Cheating, pilfering, bickering, and so on. So in this age of Kali, men have but short lives. Quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So spiritual life in the Kali Yuga is very difficult. It's not so easy. Very few people are that pious. And Prabhupada says in the Kali Yuga, it is surcharged with a feeling of a lack of faith. Lack of faith. Oh, in the Kali Yuga, the whole atmosphere is surcharged with faithfulness. Faithfulness. So it's very difficult to have faith. The first step in the spiritual life is Shraddha, and Shraddha means faith. So you have faith in Sastra, faith in Guru, faith in Vaishnavas. But even that faith is eroded. And therefore we have philosophies of atheism, like Darwinism, that everything happened by chance, or the chunk theory. So it's very difficult. And then when people do have faith, they end up putting their faith in the wrong person. Because someone has a beard and they wear this saffron, they think, oh, spiritually advanced. But there are so many cheaters in the dress of so-called yogis. So one has to be very careful who you put your faith in. To give an example, previously in the West was this character, and his name was Rajneesh. Rajneesh. So previously he was I think a philosophy teacher, and he presented himself as an acharya, Rajneesh, and he got a lot of followers. But he advocated openly that sex life, or illicit sex, is all right. And you should have as much as you can. And in order to control sex urge, you give into it, and you have as much sex as you can. So with that type of philosophy, he got a lot of followers. And then he changed his name, or someone did, to Bhagwan Rajneesh. So he promoted himself to the Bhagwan level, the God level. And I did a Google search, and at one point he had 93 Rolls Royces. 93. So he was cheating. And then, of course, the American government, that's right, they got him for evading tax because he was getting so many donations. So in the Kali Yuga, so many cheaters. So to place faith, you also have to be a little bit intelligent. So we are very fortunate that we've come under the shelter of our Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, Occidenta, Bhaktivinoda. So we're having to have faith in this teachings given to us by the pure representative. We're extremely fortunate. We're extremely fortunate. So we want to give that good fortune also to others. Because others, unfortunately, are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. In the present world situation, we see countries going to war, almost for no reason at all. Really no reason at all. So there's various armed conflicts going on in different parts of the world, where people are dying. And This is a reality. I was looking at this picture here. So the one in the middle is Sanatana Goswami. The men can see it. Sanatana Goswami is bowing down to Lord Chaitanya. Can you see that? Now you see what is in Sanatana Goswami's mouth?
Straw.
Straw. So he is presenting himself as lower than the straw in the street. So for spiritual life, you have to be meek and humble and submissive. But it has to be to the right personal process, not to some local politician. So Sanatana was very fortunate. In Krishna Lila, he's actually an associate of Radharani. He is known as Lavanga Manjari in Krishna Lila. So he appeared 500 years ago. So when I was in Ukraine, in one city called Kherson, a devotee came forward and wanted initiation. So he put a straw in his mouth and he bowed down, begging for initiation. So on behalf of Prabhupada, I gave him initiation. And I gave him the name Sanatana Goswami. And then his wife also got initiated. And then about 3 or 4 months ago, he was living there in Ukraine, and he was actually murdered. It's a little unclear who did it, but of course the war was going on, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So he and his wife were shot. The villagers saw that his cows were wandering around, and then they became alarmed, and they went to the house, and then they found Sanatana Goswami and his good wife Kalanidhi both shot. So we don't really know what's going to happen. So we should be prepared. Padam, padam, there's danger at every step. Keep padam. Be very cautious. Always take shelter of the holy name of the Lord. Always chant Krishna's holy name. So this particular devotee, I'm sure he went back to Godhead. Went back to Godhead means he has taken birth in the Lord's pastimes that are going on within this material world in some other universe. The universe is called a Brahmanda. Why is it called a Brahmanda? Because it's named after Lord Brahma. So there's trillions and trillions of universes. But this particular universe we understand is the smallest. And there's many other universes. And right now, the Lord's pastimes are going on as Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Lord Nrsimhadev, Lord Chaitanya, Krishna. So when the devotee leaves their body, they take birth within those pastimes, within the material world, and they continue their devotion. And they have what is referred to as a spiritual body. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur said it's preliminary attainment. It's a spiritual body, but there's some slight contamination. Slight, very slight. And then they associate with the Lord's parakas, associates. And then when those pastimes are finished, they go back to their destination, whether it's Vaikuntha, or whether it's Ayodhya, or whether it's Dwarka, or whether it's Vrindavan. These are the four. So then, a completely pure spiritual body. So we should be very cautious, always chant Krishna's holy name. This is the medicine. The doctor can give you the medicine. It is up to you to what? Take it. And you don't take it just once. You've got to take it every day. So the medicine is the holy name of the Lord. And that medicine may be a little bitter. Quite often, medicine is bitter, pungent. But we have to force ourselves to take that medicine. So sometimes you may not want to chant, or you may feel a little apathetic. You may feel a little lazy. But you should force yourself. Just like a young child doesn't want to go to school, but they're forced. And then later on, of their own choice, of their own volition, they're willing to go to college or university. So, to begin with, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti may mean some little forcing, which is good, it's healthy, it's all right. In the classroom, there's a teacher, and in the corner, he has a stick. Of course, not nowadays, because things have changed. But when you were all young, the teacher was allowed to do this, and he would have a stick. And for those pupils who were too noisy, or who weren't listening, the teacher would point at the stick. But for the students who were listening and very submissive, then he wouldn't point to the stick. So this stick is the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, and we have to practice it. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is teaching, the Acharyas. And then gradually we advance and we come to a more spontaneous level, where it's very natural for us to think of Krishna. At the moment, it's very natural for us to think of sense gratification. It's very natural. The mind just flows towards whatever it is, the Bollywood movie, whatever it is. And we have to try to control our mind. But there'll come a point when the taste, ruchi, becomes more deeper, and our minds will flow towards the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Krishna and the cowherd boys, pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially in Jagannath Puri, Vipralam Visetra. But we may have to wait a while. It's not going to happen in a weekend. We may have to be a little patient. Therefore, Rupa Goswami has said, Utsan Nishtad Dayat. English translation? Utsahan Nishtayat Dayat. Enthusiasm, Utsahan, Nishtayat, confidence. And that last word, Dayat, patience, tolerance. You have to be a little patient. So you're all on the right path. You just have to continue. Sometimes you have to force yourself to come to the Pietermaritzburg temple, to fast on Ekadashi, to chant your rounds. That's all right. That's good. And you should have full faith at the time of death, which can happen any moment at all. Right? I gave the example of Sanatan. He was shot. Basically, he was murdered. So death can come at any time at all. You may be driving back tonight in some car accident. Any time at all. I was looking on Google, which sometimes I do, and there was that bus accident, right, in Limpopo, and the bus went off, and I think 45 people died, but one young girl survived. So you may be driving, and then someone else goes into you. You may be very cautiously driving with your seatbelt, looking to the left and the right, both hands on the wheel, no cell phone, and then someone else goes into you. This was the case when Srila Prabhupada went to Mauritius. After leaving South Africa, he went to Mauritius, and they were driving. Actually, Prabhupada went to Mauritius solely to meet the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister was busy. So he sent his chauffeur to drive Prabhupada around the island. Of course, Mauritius is basically sugarcane. So it was a Citroen, and they had a chauffeur. And then, that's right, Pusta Krishna Swami was in the front. There's a picture of him here, half his face. Pusta Krishna Swami. He was the GBC in charge of South Africa. And then Prabhupada was sitting in the back with Brahmananda Maharaj. Brahmananda Maharaj didn't come to South Africa because he was blacklisted. He tried to get in the border, this, what's the border? River, Louis Tricard and beyond. What's it called?
The river is called the Orange River.
The Orange, anyhow. He tried to get into South Africa, and he was a little too forceful, and became a little angry. As you can imagine, Brahmananda, I think he was 160 kilos. So they blacklisted him, which means you're never allowed into the Republic of South Africa. So he couldn't come here when Prabhupada came. So instead, one of his other disciples, Harikesh Maharaj, came. So Prabhupada was in Mauritius. They were driving him in this Citroen, and there was an accident. I think it was a VW Combi, and I think they were from South Africa. So in Mauritius, they drive on the other side. So it can get quite confusing, like in America, they drive on the other side. So this vehicle went into the Citroen, and both cars were a write-off. But Prabhupada was scratched, some bruises, this and that. And this is when Prabhupada said, yes, there's danger. At every stage in life there is danger. Prabhupada said, we were driving along peacefully. This is Prabhupada Lilamrita. We were driving along peacefully, then all of a sudden, crash. So this can happen at any time at all. So we should always be ready to chant Krishna's holy name and become more serious. So, unfortunately, I'm not feeling so good. I'm still recovering from this operation. So, I have a question. What verse was it? And you're not allowed to answer because he memorizes, he knows. I'll hand it over to one of the ladies.
I don't know where you say something.
Huh?
I don't know the text that we spoke about. Crying out where you say something.
Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number 10. Human beings are very short-lived, quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and always, above all, disturbed. The slightest thing, right, the dog barking. Where I stay in Hillcrest, next door they have 5 dogs. So it used to work me up because I would sit on the veranda. It used to disturb me. So one of my disciples is a policeman, so he even went there, and warned them. But now I sit there and the dogs may bark because of the monkeys. They bark at the monkeys. It doesn't bother me. Some or other I've made some advancement. And the dogs don't seem to bother me so much now. So the slightest thing disturbs me. You see this in an airport, isn't it? The slightest thing disturbs people. So when those people happen to be presidents and prime ministers, they can create wars. So now we see what's going on in different parts of the world. Conflict, fighting. But Prabhupada summed it up very simply. Very simply, Prabhupada said, as long as they eat meat, there'll be wars. It's as simple as that. As long as people eat meat, there'll be wars. It's Prabhupada Nilamrita. Prabhupada was in New York in 1966, and he was, one of his supporters was a lawyer. My memory serves me right, Stephen Goldsmith or something. So Prabhupada was getting some help to register the society. And a conversation started where some of the followers of Prabhupada were talking about war. And this particular lawyer who was helping, he said, well, there's a theory that if you try to repress the senses and you try to control your senses too much, after a while it comes out, it spills out, and there are wars. And then Prabhupada interjected and he said, no, as long as people eat meat, there'll be wars. It's as simple as that. So I did some further research on this. If we cannot coexist with animals, how can we coexist with humans? So we're not coexisting with animals. We are breeding them and slaughtering them. So my further research showed 200 million chickens are slaughtered every day. 200 million. So our message is very simple. Avoid simple activity. And it's not that difficult when you start taking prasadam, samosas, especially pizza. Especially when pizza is done by special people. You know, the pizza, the thin crust and triple thick cheese. And rasgulla, winter kali, sandesh. You start getting addicted to this and you start putting on weight. And intoxication, we become intoxicated with the name of God. Now it's Saturday night, and there are many people gambling away. I forget, what's it called in Maritzburg?
Golden.
Huh?
Golden.
Huh?
Golden Horse.
How you knew? How did you know? Huh?
Coming from there.
Golden horse. So gambling, intoxication, So we avoid these things. We live a pious life. We chant God's name. And then our destination is guaranteed. It's not maybe, it's guaranteed. And I can conclude with this very powerful statement, which I memorized. Canto 6, Chapter 3, summary. The fact is, even a chronically sinful person who chants the name of God, although not completely without offenses, does not take another material birth. So a chronically sinful person. So you're not in that category. You're the opposite. You are chronically pious. Canto 6, Chapter 3, Introduction. That's word for word. So you're all practicing. So you will not take another material birth. So what does that mean? You'll take a spiritual birth. And as I explained, it'll be in some universe where the Lord's pastimes are going on. And if you're attracted towards Sitaram, then that's where you'll take birth, in those pastimes. And if you're attracted towards Krishna Lila, that's where you'll take birth. Or Vaikuntha, you follow in the footsteps of Prahlad, then you'll take birth there. But at our lower stage, we don't really know what is our ultimate destination, because we, in a general way, the Lord's pastimes, specifically, it hasn't, we're not that advanced. But we should have faith. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Doyal Nitai Gaura ki jai. So, would you like to ask something? Add some comment? Yes, one who defected from South Africa to America.
You spoke a little bit about the principle that Rupa Goswami speaks about, that unalloyed devotional service, Anyavilasa Kasarina. I know for myself, I like the stage where it's more for me to do the service for my, for some people it becomes transactional with Krishna. So how can we move from that point of having this transactional relationship with Krishna? Okay, I pray to you and you help me with this, and strive towards trying to get that mood of full pleasure Krishna in me.
Mood of?
That Anyavilasa for Krishna.
Well, that comes later. So we shouldn't run before we can walk. That pure devotional service comes later, but we should aspire for it. And there's two definitions of pure devotional service. So one is free from material desires or philosophical speculation, and offered anukul, favorably to Krishna. And the other definition of pure devotional service is Braja Bhakti, or Kevala Bhakti, or devotion which is devoid of any Aishvarya Gyan, any thought Krishna is God, that he's the supreme and full of opulence. But rather, Krishna is my friend, Sakya-ras. He's my son, Vatsalya-ras, or Madhurya-ras. So there's two different definitions of pure devotional service. So we should, obviously, we're on a lower platform, so it's the first definition we should be trying to incorporate. Free from material desires, philosophical speculation, and offered favorably. But at some point, we want to enter into Braja Bhakti. But that may take a while. Therefore, we have to be patient. Yes, sir.
Krishna. Can you tell us anything about the visit of Sri Prabhupada to South Africa, how you served him? I know you cooked for him at the time.
No, I never cooked.
You didn't?
Speculation. No, I was never really a big cook.
Okay.
My godbrother, Rukna Prabhu, cooked for him. And he'd go back, for instance, he did the program, wherever it was, he'd go back at night, and Prabhupada would ask for kachori. And Rukna used to cook. And the kachoris were so nice, Prabhupada said to his disciple, Rukna Prabhu, I want you to go to Vrindavan and cook for the deities. Because the Krishna Balaram temple had just opened. Remember it opened, Ram Navami, 1975. So Prabhupada came October 1975. So Rukna Prabhu, he actually came from American native Indian heritage. I don't know if his father and mother were both, but he came from, Apache, Cheyenne Indians. And he went to Vrindavan, and he cooked for Krishna Balaram. So now my next question, what is a kachori?
It's a savory preparation, lemon filling inside it. That's deep
What is
fried.
the filling?
Normally in India it's potato, but in ISKCON it's like paneer and corn. I don't know.
Urad dal. That is a real kachori. Now as soon as you get the round thing, people call it a kachori, but actually it's just a samosa that's made round. I've understood it's urad dal. So I was the pujari when Prabhupada came. I was in charge of the deities. And all that responsibility was on my shoulders. And getting the Guru Puja paraphernalia ready. And then the chandan, Prabhupada's chandan, flower garland. I didn't make the flower garlands. There were 3 ladies. They made the flower garlands. And I would offer that flower garland. So when Prabhupada was here, I never went for a morning walk. Because when Prabhupada went for a morning walk, I had to dress the deities and clean the temple and do all that stuff. But when I was at Bhaktivedanta Manor, I went for some morning walks. I managed to sneak in and do some morning walks with Prabhupada. Anything else? Yes.
I just want to reflect on the 10 campaigns 1992 when we were going and we went to Prasad on the road to the house, and he was going back to the site. Brian was driving and he was in the passenger seat, and myself and Millie was in the back. And then while Brian was driving, we came to a bend and he overtook another vehicle, and it was oncoming vehicle, so Brian just went to the left-hand side. And I was the only one chanting at that time. And then I probably said to you and everyone that I'm the only one chanting. And then you turned to me and you said, but were you thinking of Krishna? And I smiled and I said, I wasn't thinking of Krishna.
You weren't thinking,
Chanting.
but you were chanting. Like the parrot. Still. Ajamil chanted. He chanted the 4-syllable, na, rai, ya, na. But we reduce it to the 3-syllable, Narayan. Same with go, ra, ang, ga. Shivananda saying would worship the 4-syllable mantra. Go, ra, ang, ga. But when we say it, we say go, rang, ga, 3 syllables. It doesn't matter. The benefit is still there. But if you were practicing another system of yoga, then the mantra would count. You've got to pronounce it exactly right, and the right tone, and at the right time of the day, and the right tune, and you've got to be a Brahmin, and all this and that. But Lord Chaitanya's mercy is so powerful in this age. Even in China, I understand, there's not really a word for Ra. So how do they chant Rama? It doesn't quite come out properly. But still, the benefit is there, no harm. No harm. So there's a lot of mercy in this age. Let's just continue as we're doing it. Anyone else? You got a question?
There's a comment.
Comment. Thank you.
Thank you for visiting us. It was nice to hear your voice again in our temple.
Yes, I'm always thinking Maritzburg. Must go, must go, must go. Dog is barking. He knows I'm home. Anything else you want to ask? All right, we'll end with a short kirtan. John.